Envision this. There are instances throughout existence when fate doesn't arrive with fanfare or alerts or dramatic presentations. Fate comes softly, surprisingly, appearing as something routine, such as a contact from your parent or a dining booking arranged by someone cherishing you, or a set of digital locations transmitted to your communication by someone you have confidence in. This accounts for the story of a pair whose destinies crossed on a typical Thursday night in one of America's most restricted establishments, and how that meeting triggered a succession of occurrences that would rebuild the whole authority composition of dual crime groups, initiate a worldwide examination, and produce a partnership among two hostile groups that nobody in the underground anticipated. However, before we arrive at that instant, before we get to the eating establishment, before we get to the lone communication that modified all, we must comprehend who these two individuals were, how they got to be on that definite night, and what unseen movements were presently happening, creating the foundation for a meet that neither of them expected. His designation is Demetrius Solomon, despite the fact that barely anybody addresses him by that. In the sectors where he functions, in the underworld of the eastern region of the nation, he is recognized solely as the organizer. Demetrius measures 42 periods, and his being fills a space before his physique even manifests. He presents himself with the category of command that flows not from combat or antagonism, yet from complete assurance in his private capability. He originated in Baltimore, Maryland, in the kind of location where criminal behavior isn't a professional selection. It's a survival method, it's a family legacy, it's the expected trajectory for young males who mature observing their male parents traverse the elaborate rhythm among law implementation and criminal occupation. His parent was a numbers operator in the 1980s throughout the era of the substance outbreak. An individual who grasped that his responsibility was to transfer money, to help movements, to persist in the positions between what registered as permitted and what registered as beneficial. His maternal guardian was a health worker who labored nighttime spans, who reared 3 young people independently following his parent was destroyed by an opposing group when Demetrius existed just 7 years. The recollection of that date, of being withdrawn from academy, of police vehicles encompassing their district, of his maternal guardian's appearance when she discovered that her companion existed terminated, the specific manner her appendages gave out as although the facts represented a physical pressure pressing her toward the surface, shaped all forthcoming. His more mature sibling, Marcus, transformed into a fighting athlete, making an effort to route his sensation and despair into something authorized, something that might be seen and valued by humanity. His sister, Keisha, transformed into a health worker like their maternal guardian, selecting to mend instead of injure, selecting to establish instead of demolish. Yet Demetrius selected something alternate entirely. He transformed into a planner. Through the period of 12, Demetrius comprehended the criminal activities functioning in his zone superior to the people managing them. He grasped distribution systems, region control, monetary movements, and the multifaceted emotional makeup of individual choosing. He maintained papers where he monitored which commerce operators were beneficial and what reason, which remained susceptible and which component presented vulnerability, which carried built weakness in their procedure that might be utilized. Whilst extra kids participated in athletics or electronic entertainments, Demetrius researched. Whilst extra teenage individuals went to celebrations or looked for intimate connections, Demetrius participated in conferences, observing from the perimeter, comprehending how supremacy functioned in his environment. Through 16 he had initiated his private procedure, modest initially, merely movement in a pair of regions, yet executing with such thoroughness and computational performance that throughout 5 periods, he'd managed supremacy spanning Baltimore's complete substance marketplace. However, narcotics represented merely the starting. Demetrius grasped something that the majority of avenue operators never perceive. Genuine prosperity originates not from the avenue communications, originates not from the district representatives or the mid-position commerce managers, yet from the structure that reinforces those communications. Genuine supremacy originates from facts, from direction of supplies, from impact. Genuine realm originates from grasping that brutality must be the ultimate possibility, not the primary, that competence must be created and appreciated above all additional. Through the moment he achieved 30, Demetrius had distributed his realm spanning the whole eastern region. He managed structured crime from Baltimore extending to Boston, managing an initiative that remained so advanced, so skillfully prepared, that federal law implementers possessed difficulty even displaying that it lived. He functioned via middle individuals and systems that remained so intricate that adhering to the monetary movement to return to him would require abilities that the majority of regulation execution groups straightforwardly didn't contain. He positioned himself with brilliant individuals. His vice administrator represented his sibling Marcus, an individual who had departed skilled athletics to handle the physical implementation component of the company with a mix of deadly effectiveness and striking self-discipline. His funds administrator represented a woman designated Diane Wu, a monetary authority who might make billions of monetary units vanish into authorized businesses so effortlessly that regardless of auditors might not locate the beginning. His fact administrator represented a male designated Thomas Graves, a previous nationwide organization operative who presently functioned for Demetrius, delivering facts regarding all from participant activities to federal examinations to the individual inadequacies of government representatives who possibly would require to be impacted or managed. His execution administrator represented a woman designated Rebecca Martinez, who had formerly been a conveyance organizer for a prominent transport corporation and who presently handled the transportation of substance spanning the complete Atlantic zone with the category of accuracy that might have created a military guide weep with jealousy. However, there existed individual aspect that Demetrius Solomon had never been able to manage, individual pressure that had confirmed to be further mighty than any criminal business, any federal examination, any hazard to his supremacy. His maternal guardian, Evangeline Solomon. Evangeline exists 68 periods, and she has invested her complete being attempting to extract her boy from the shadow. All Sundays she proceeds to location of worship, the identical location of worship where she participated in her ceremony, where her young people achieved baptism, where she has existed imploring for her boy's existence for 42 periods. All Sundays she occupies a seated area approximately 3 places from the entrance and she implores. She implores for her boy's protection, she implores for his existence, she implores that he shall one interval recognize salvation, that he shall one interval grasp that the direction he has picked represents a direction that results away from everything that is significant. All Sundays she comes residence from location of worship and creates his favored dinner. A dinner that she has constructed from when he represented a young person, a dinner that embodies in all element the affection and the despair of a maternal guardian who declines to take that her boy gets misplaced. The dinner usually amounts to something uncomplicated yet created with remarkable focus. Grilled poultry, greens, grain bread, combination of grains and dairy. Yet what represents substance isn't the definite provisions, yet the performance, the manner that the deed of preparing and presenting provisions to her boy amounts to a method of interacting that she hasn't surrendered on him, that she persists in thinking he merits rehabilitation, that she persists in observing in him the possibility for something superior to what he's developed into. And all period when his birth date comes and surrounding festive intervals, she requests him regarding the identical concept in a tone that includes identical sections exasperation and expectancy. Discovering a companion, calming, producing young people, establishing an authorized existence. She doesn't take that her boy performs unlawful activities. She declines to think that the smart, skillful, outstanding young individual she educated remains past salvation. She maintains, with the unshakable truth that simply a maternal guardian possesses, with a category of surety that moves beyond reasoning or information, that assuming Demetrius might contact the fitting female, assuming he might establish a group, assuming he might make domestic connections that establish him in the presence of approved civilization, he might be extracted from the existence of crime that has overtaken him. She maintains that link is more mighty than supremacy, that group is further effective than realm, that the individual power to interact with additional individual might symbolize the exclusive pressure fit of shifting an individual who has created his complete existence on the base of mercilessness. Demetrius, she mentioned to him a couple intervals back on his birthday, in the cooking section of the residency that he sustains in the midtown of Baltimore, as she remained creating his favored pastry. You measure 42 periods. You contain money, you contain supremacy, you contain all an individual might desire besides somebody to distribute it with. It's not organic. It's not fitting. God desires you to possess a companion, a buddy, a female who cherishes you. I'm not growing any younger, and I'd like to perceive my descendant young people prior to I'm excessively mature to appreciate them. Demetrius values his maternal guardian beyond any additional individual on soil. He might massacre for her absent consideration. He might provide up anything for her. Yet he similarly comprehends that his presence is not suitable with matrimony, with household presence, with the category of assurance that a connection demands. How might he inquire somebody to establish a presence with him whenever that presence gets founded on brutality, on dishonesty, on the gathering of supremacy via methods that might repulse any suitable individual? How might he remain forthright with a female regarding what he performs? How might he anticipate her to authorize the actuality of his presence? "Mama," he mentioned to her softly, maintaining her palm, grasping that gentleness was the merely fitting response to her optimism, "my presence isn't a presence that incorporates a companion. You recognize what I manage. You recognize who I represent. You recognize what this realm gets established on. How might I inquire somebody to participate in this? How might I anticipate somebody to authorize the peril, the dishonesty, the injury? I comprehend who you existed." His maternal guardian modified him, and her voice incorporated firmness and optimism, both surrender and resolve. "Yet I have confidence in who you might represent. And I won't finish thinking that, and I won't finish imploring for it, and sincerely, I'm exhausted of ingesting solitary when I participate in group dinners. I can't establish a presence with you, yet an extra female might. Therefore I've maintained matters into my private appendages. I've communicated with a partnership facility, and I've delivered them with data regarding you. They shall discover somebody fitting, and you shall participate in a meal with that individual. And assuming you deny, assuming you make efforts to prevent this, assuming you make an effort to fabricate explanations, subsequently I shall finish creating for you. I shall finish participating in group dinners. I shall separate myself from your existence, and you shall comprehend what it implies to be genuinely solitary." Demetrius grasped that his maternal guardian presented seriousness. He grasped that this wasn't a statement created in sensation, yet a guarantee created from a location of affection, and that his maternal guardian was absolutely competent of pursuing this via. The separation of Evangeline Solomon from her boy's presence might be damaging, might establish an emptiness that zero quantity of supremacy or prosperity might complete. And therefore Demetrius accepted. He accepted the partnership facility. He accepted to participate in a blind gathering. He accepted to just make an effort to encounter somebody, to just provide his maternal guardian the courtesy of a singular evening, an individual communication with somebody she thought might be fitting for him. That's the direction Demetrius finished up with a booking at Celestial, among the maximum restricted eating establishments in the Washington region, concerning 8-night span in a Thursday night. He was directed to put on something lovely, to remain accepting, to not examine his communication apparatus throughout dining, to actually engage in the communication with the female he was experiencing. He achieved a communication figure to request, assuming he needed to shift the booking, yet there remained an unsaid grasp that moving would finish in prompt replies. His maternal guardian had utilized a partnership facility, a elevated conclusion individual that provides to prosperous, mighty individuals who want confidentiality, who want to be guaranteed that their individual facts stays confidential with nobody, who want to understand that the operation shall manage with complete secrecy. She had delivered the matchmaker with carefully refined facts regarding Demetrius, eliminating the sections regarding structured crime, regarding the criminal realm, regarding the brutality that distinguishes his presence, and the matchmaker had located him a gathering. A female designated Victoria who functions in monetary business, who stays smart, gorgeous, and apparently quite keen on experiencing a prosperous business individual concerned in actual property advancement. Demetrius didn't desire to attend. All intuition in him protested the concept of sitting throughout a table from an unfamiliar individual, of mimicking to represent somebody he wasn't, of participating in the practices of pair formation whenever he grasped from the start that any genuine connection might remain unattainable, might remain unjust to the female included. Yet his maternal guardian created it evident that assuming he didn't appear for this gathering, assuming he declined to just make an effort to experience somebody, subsequently she might finish creating for him. And in Evangeline Solomon's presence, creating amounts to affection. The separation of creating demonstrates serious concern. It amounts to the greatest hazard, the maximum destruction of paternal control. Therefore Demetrius discovered himself moving from Baltimore to Washington on a Thursday night in October, putting on a garment that cost extra than a lot of individuals' month income, managing a car that he sustained particularly for moments whenever he required to demonstrate himself to humanity as a permitted businessman. He deliberated about rotating around, regarding requesting his maternal guardian and creating some justification regarding a company crisis that needed his prompt focus. Yet he additionally grasped that his maternal guardian might understand via any justification, that she might maintain pushing till he provided her just the courtesy of a singular night, an individual communication with somebody she thought might be fitting for him. The transfer consumed 2 periods and 15 counts. He moved throughout the night, observing Jazz via the wireless communication, deliberating regarding how silly this whole instance stayed. Here he existed, an individual who managed a criminal realm stretching the whole eastern location, an individual who had purchased killings, who had established the collapse of commerce competitors, who grasped the workings of supremacy in methods that the vast majority might never grasp, and he experienced nervousness regarding a blind gathering. It was almost entertaining. It was almost pitiful. Yet somewhere underneath the detachment, underneath the figuring, underneath all the equipment of his crime understanding, there existed a tiny component of Demetrius that wasn't wholly separated from the likelihood that his maternal guardian might be accurate. There existed a tiny component of him that wondered what it might experience like to possess somebody in his presence who grasped him, who valued him, who might comprehend him absent assessment. There existed a tiny component of him that stayed exhausted of representing solitary, that stayed exhausted of executing the function of the organizer, that stayed exhausted of never enabling anybody to observe the individual underneath all the supremacy and brutality. At the similar moment that Demetrius existed moving toward Washington, a female designated Cassandra Monroe existed in a lodging structure in Arlington, Virginia, examining records via her computing equipment. The lodging was sophisticated yet not grandiose, the category of position wherever individuals might manage occupation absent attracting regard. Cassandra measures 30 periods and she represents among the nearly all threatening individuals in North America. She serves as the archive shade for the Chin Enterprise, among the nearly all mighty crime businesses on the western location of the nation. Cassandra exists the individual who sustains the repositories of secrets, leverage supplies, monetary documents, and facts that permit the Chin Enterprise to execute absent restriction. She represents the protector of secrets, the protector of impact, the protector of the facts that might permit the business to sustain its supremacy spanning 7 regions and numerous worldwide jurisdictions. Cassandra originated in Oakland, California, to a group that had money, that had training, that would have supplied her with all possibility to establish a permitted presence. Her parent participated in company, the category of company that registers as legitimate on its face yet which included connections to individuals who don't register as legitimate, individuals who execute in the background, individuals who grasp that the distinction amongst legitimate and illegitimate companies frequently represents merely an issue of viewpoint and admittance to the fitting advocates. Her maternal guardian represented an educator of processing understanding at the California school, a female who stayed brilliant with systems, who grasped regulations and methods and the composition of electronic communications. Cassandra matured encompassed by the two money and learning, encompassed by the grasp that facts represents supremacy, that comprehension represents investment, that grasping how activities operate grants you the power to benefit from those activities. Yet her guardians were the two eliminated in a car occurrence whenever she existed 18 periods. A car occurrence that she subsequently discovered was not unintentional, yet was organized by an opposed business as a signal to her parent, who had been included in the initial periods of establishing what might transform into the Chin Enterprise. The signal remained uncomplicated. Assuming you persist to establish this business, your group shall suffer. Assuming you persist to look for supremacy in this sphere, your cherished individuals shall compensate the amount. Cassandra's parent experienced selected to persist anyway, and his group experienced compensated the amount. Cassandra remained solitary, parentless, prosperous yet fully adrift from everything that had offered her presence arrangement. She participated in university because she didn't comprehend what additional to accomplish. She examined processing understanding because her maternal guardian experienced examined processing understanding, because she desired to recognize her maternal guardian's recollection via persisting her job. She progressed capabilities in unauthorized accessibility, in facts gathering, in the category of advanced electronic robbing that permits an individual to obtain facts that additional individuals considered was protected, that additional individuals considered was defended underneath tiers of encryption and safety measures. She remained extraordinarily proficient. Through the moment she turned 21, she might penetrate any activity. She might obtain any facts. She might perform activities with regulations that the vast majority didn't even comprehend were achievable. And that's whenever Phoenix Chin discovered her. Phoenix Chin amounts 55 periods, and she represents among the nearly all extraordinary females in presence. She manages the Chin Enterprise, a business that manages a vast crime venture stretching the whole Western location and extending into numerous worldwide industries. Phoenix acquired her realm from her parent, yet she has adjusted it into something far further advanced, far further threatening than it formerly was. Wherever her parent expressed a conventional crime administrator, managing locations, managing substance paths, gathering safety money, Phoenix has transformed crime into digital. She has authorized permitted companies that work as disguises for money cleaning. She maintains money in technology businesses that provide her back access to authority equipment. She maintains connections with political individuals, magistrates, and enforcement operatives that make her nearly immune to assault. She doesn't just symbolize a crime administrator. She represents a designer of supremacy, a manufacturer of realms, a female who grasps that genuine supremacy originates not from brutality, yet from facts and the power to utilize that facts in purposeful methods. Phoenix Chin grasped Cassandra's parent. Phoenix grasped regarding the fatality of Cassandra's guardians. Phoenix comprehended that Cassandra existed solitary, that she experienced anguish, that she remained susceptible, and similarly that she existed competent beyond evaluation. Therefore Phoenix encountered her. She didn't encounter her with brutality or statements. She encountered her with a suggestion. Function for me, and I shall provide you the means to obliterate the individuals who eliminated your guardians. Function for me and I shall provide you objective. Function for me and I shall provide you group. Cassandra experienced 18 periods. She had recently entombed her guardians. She had just comprehended that their demises weren't unintentional, that somebody deliberately murdered them. She had just grasped that the presence remained far additional threatening than she previously grasped. Therefore whenever Phoenix Chin delivered her the possibility to retaliate, whenever Phoenix delivered her the possibility to utilize her expertise to obtain facts that might be utilized to obliterate her guardian's murderers, Cassandra responded affirmatively. Phoenix Chin claimed Cassandra underneath her oversight. She educated her to ponder like in facts authority, to obtain facts absent departing indications, to grasp the structure of supremacy from within. She presented Cassandra to the specialized system of the Chin Enterprise, the communications, the computers, the electronic structure that reinforced the complete business. And spanning the period of 9 periods, Cassandra transformed into vital to Phoenix's operation. She transformed into the individual who comprehended everything regarding all individuals. She remained the protector of secrets, the protector of impact, the protector of the facts that might permit the Chin Enterprise to sustain its supremacy. She transformed into Phoenix's additional appendage, her reliable operative, the individual Phoenix needed on greater than anybody additional. Yet a couple months back, Phoenix Chin delivered Cassandra an obligation that might shift all. Phoenix experienced maintained surveillance on the extension of Demetrius Solomon's Eastern location business. She grasped that Demetrius functioned moving westward, that he was producing fresh distribution systems, that he positioned himself to probably advance into industries that the Chin Enterprise regarded as theirs. She grasped that Demetrius remained smart, calculated, and threatening in a method that the vast majority of crime administrators didn't represent. And Phoenix desired to grasp everything regarding this hazard. She desired to grasp how Demetrius functioned, wherever his susceptibilities existed, what his group makeup appeared like, who he depended on, what his emotional makeup represented. She desired, basically, to maintain a benefit assuming matters ever progressed to struggle. Therefore Phoenix handed Cassandra to a quite precise operation. Blend into Demetrius Solomon's intimate sphere. Get nearer to him. Comprehend his movements, his susceptibilities, his emotional makeup. Grasp how he considers, what he appreciates, what his inadequacies represent. And assuming achievable, place yourself to terminate him assuming it turns vital. The obligation remained extraordinarily demanding. Cassandra required to establish a false identity. She required to create a wholly believable deception account. She required to place herself in a moment wherever she might establish connection with Demetrius underneath situations that appeared organic, that seemed like they happened by chance, that might not feasibly be linked to the Chin enterprise. And she required to execute this absent alarming any federal enforcement that possibly might examine either business. The partnership facility penetration used a couple months. Cassandra hacked via the facility's equipment. She established an artificial identity, Victoria Hayes, a female who performed in monetary company who contained the fitted credentials, who contained the fitted account tail. She created testimonies from individuals who were, in reality, extra participants of the Chin enterprise acting as the past associates and overseers. She established an electronic background, internet locations, employment records, training documents, that might withstand any category of informal examination. She distributed her account to the partnership facility with precise selections created to correspond her with anybody like Demetrius, anybody prosperous, anybody mighty, anybody who obviously wasn't going to experience fulfilled with an ordinary female. And subsequently she required to pause for the arrangement to function, for the matchmakers to accomplish their responsibility, for the formula to recognize her like a fitting match for Demetrius Solomon. It required 6 intervals. 6 intervals of tension, of doubt, of questioning assuming the penetration might succeed, of questioning assuming she might attain the possibility to approximate Demetrius. She retained her deception through persisting to perform for Phoenix, persisting to sustain the repositories, persisting to obtain facts on different purposes. Yet underneath the exterior there existed a stress, and waiting, a feeling that something vital remained about to manifest. Yet it succeeded. The matchmakers, examining their inventory, examining their listing of individuals who experienced money supremacy, and pursued to experience somebody vital, recognized Cassandra, or instead recognized Victoria Hayes, like a probable match for Demetrius Solomon. They approached her. They requested assuming she might wish to experience a customer who matched particular requirements. And Cassandra responded affirmatively. She had existed employed by the partnership facility to arrange for the gathering. She experienced invested period examining Demetrius, grasping his acknowledged past, examining reports regarding his actual property business, researching pictures of him. She functioned with Phoenix to create her deception tale. She exercised her solutions to queries, her replies to different conversational moments, her responses to distinct categories of facts. She existed as arranged like achievable for this category of operation. Yet whenever she occupied that lodging chamber in Arlington, examining the documents a single moment added, examining the facts on Demetrius that the Chin enterprise experienced obtained, examining her private deception tale and the created specifics of her background, Cassandra Monroe experienced something that she hadn't experienced in periods. She experienced anxious. She experienced the category of nervousness that happens whenever you comprehend that something vital remains about to manifest, whenever you comprehend that you're about to traverse a perimeter that you can't traverse back, whenever you grasp that the following couple intervals might adjust the complete course of your presence. She experienced being educated by Phoenix to be an operative, to be a penetrator, to be somebody that might pretend to be anybody in any moment. She experienced entered processing activities that registered as defended via armed forces category security. She experienced robbed facts from authority companies. She experienced obtained secrets that, assuming created community, might topple political individuals, magistrates, and enforcement workers. She represented proficient. She represented fit. She didn't represent somebody who experienced anxious. And still, whenever the moment got near for her to abandon for the eating facility, whenever she dressed in the dark garment that experienced been cautiously selected to task the picture of a prosperous female in monetary company, whenever she implements cosmetics with accuracy that recommended extended education, whenever she inspected herself in the representation a ultimate moment prior to directing to the entrance, Cassandra Monroe experienced her center frequency improve in a method that she might not describe. She achieved celestial at 8 moments and a period, a span of moments following the booking moment. The minimal slowness remained deliberate. It displayed that she conducted a hectic presence, that she didn't experience excessively interested, that she functioned as somebody of importance who maintained different obligations. The eating facility existed precisely like she anticipated. Sophisticated, high-cost, inhabited by individuals who visibly encountered prosperity and supremacy. She existed positioned at a spot in the area, a spot that delivered privacy meanwhile continuing awareness to the additional dining establishment. And subsequently at 8 counts and a span Demetrius Solomon went into. He traveled throughout the eating facility with the category of visibility that created individuals observe. He remained tall, around 6'3" measures, with a category of bearing that indicated he existed wholly comfortable in his private dermis, wholly assured in his location in the world. He wore a fitted garment that possibly expends extra than the vast majority's month earnings, and he put it on the method that males familiar with supremacy put on outfits. Like it represented a secondary thought, like the designing and excellence of the cloth remained pointless contrasted to the truth that he was putting it on. He experienced transported to the spot via the eating facility administrator, who plainly comprehended that this remained an individual who mattered, who required to get honored regard, who required to attain the greatest assistance that the eating facility might provide. Whenever Demetrius viewed Cassandra, something transferred in his face. It remained moderate, merely a light modification in the placement of his upper appendage, merely a light broadening of his ocular openings, yet Cassandra captured it. He experienced evaluating her. He experienced examining her the method that a hunter examines target, the method that a calculated thinker examines an opposition, the method that a male that invested his complete presence examining individual attitude examines a different individual. He positioned himself throughout from her and for a point the pair stayed speechless. "I acknowledge you appearing," Cassandra mentioned, and her tone remained reduced, calibrated, professional. "I grasp that blind gatherings don't represent all individuals' selection. My maternal guardian doesn't recognize that I maintain selections," Demetrius mentioned, and there existed genuine amusement in his tone, genuine affection in his appearance. "She maintains that assuming she creates the fitting situations, I shall change into the category of individual that desires to marry. She amounts a female of unshakable certainty. My business maintains comparable anticipations," Cassandra mentioned, and she observed cautiously for his reply. She deliberately selected the term business, instead of organization or company. She deliberately established a tiny ambiguity in her remark. She performed examining him, observing to witness assuming he might perceive the term selection, observing to witness assuming he might grasp that there existed added to her than she presented on the exterior. Demetrius observed. She might detect it in the method that his appearance transformed, in the method that his complete body placement shifted. He existed not anymore managing this like a blind gathering. He existed not anymore executing underneath the understanding that Victoria Hayes represented a female in monetary company. He grasped at that point that something maintained distinction regarding this moment, that this female comprehended something, that this night was not what it seemed to be. "Communicate me regarding your business," Demetrius mentioned, and he positioned himself return in his position, his appendages folding on the spot in entrance of him, his body communication wholly loosened. "And kindly, communicate me the truthfulness. I perceive that truth, despite being regularly unexpected, regularly remains substantially extra engaging than fiction." Cassandra created a selecting at that point. She might have persisted with her deception tale. She might have prevented, might have reframed, might have directed the communication back to the manuscript that she and Phoenix experienced created. Yet something in Demetrius's face, something in the method that he observed her, something in the grasp that transferred amongst them at that minute communicated her that persisting with the dishonesty might function as ineffective. This individual stayed excessively smart. This individual grasped excessively much. This individual currently comprehended via her deception, and mimicking otherwise might merely reduce her in his regards. "My business obtains facts," Cassandra mentioned cautiously, persisting examining him, persisting observing his reply. "I support individuals grasp their susceptibilities. I support businesses defend themselves via comprehending what might be utilized opposite them. There's an abundance of emotional makeup included. You need to grasp how individuals contemplate what they desire, what they'll execute to acquire it." "You're explaining control," Demetrius mentioned. "Control represents merely a term for comprehending individuals deeply," Cassandra reacted, and at that instant she passed a perimeter. At that minute she exposed something vital regarding herself, something that moved beyond her deception tale, something that remained genuinely accurate. And at times, whenever you comprehend somebody deeply, you grasp matters regarding them that shock you. You grasp that they amount extra multifaceted than you anticipated, extra engaging than your preliminary judgment recommended, extra deserving of reflection than your initial objective limitations showed. Demetrius positioned back in his position and his ocular openings narrowed a bit. "Who transmitted you?" he requested, and his tone remained reduced, yet there existed metal underneath it. There existed the tone of a male that experienced intimidations prior, that grasped the alignment of hazard, that remained prepared to reply to what occurred following. "Does it matter?" Cassandra questioned backwards, and she maintained his gaze firm. "What stays significant is that you presently grasp I'm not who I stated I experienced, and I presently grasp that you're not who the matchmaker stated you experienced. What stays significant is that we're beginning from a location of shared recognition. We the pair grasp that we're threatening. We the pair grasp that we exist in globes wherever assurance remains an extravagance that the vast majority might not manage. And we the pair grasp that we maintain approximately a moment prior to defense workers arrive to eliminate me from this eating facility, prior to this night finishes with brutality instead of communication. The defense workers started to approach the spot, having detected something irregular regarding the communication, having experienced instruction to reply to any moment that appeared irregular or threatening. Demetrius elevated his appendage, merely a delicate signal barely observable, and the defense workers paused, sustaining their spacing yet staying prepared. "You maintain my focus," Demetrius mentioned. "Yet I desire the truthfulness. I desire to grasp who transmitted you and what reason." "Phoenix Chin," Cassandra mentioned, and she observed his face cautiously for his reply. "She transmitted me because you execute moving eastward. She transmitted me because she sees you like a probable menace. She transmitted me to blend into your business, to comprehend you, to place myself to maybe terminate you assuming vital. That was the obligation." Demetrius experienced a lengthy silence. He stayed executing processing this facts, grasping what it signified, grasping the effects of what was getting exposed to him. "And presently," he requested, "what amounts to your present obligation?" "I don't grasp," Cassandra mentioned, and it remained truthfulness. "I came with an obligation. I came to pretend to be a female designated Victoria Hayes. I came to blend into your existence to obtain facts, to place myself like somebody you might depend on. Yet the instant you moved in, the instant I observed you, the instant you grasped that I wasn't who I stated I experienced, something modified. The obligation turned multifaceted. The assurance with which I approached this night turned uncertain." "What reason are you informing me this?" Demetrius requested. "What reason are you damaging your private obligation? What reason are you exposing yourself whenever you might have maintained your deception, whenever you might have persisted the penetration?" "Because," Cassandra mentioned, and her tone incorporated something that Demetrius hadn't detected prior, something that appeared like weakness, something that appeared like truthfulness. "I came to blend into you, to manage you, to obliterate you assuming vital. And I experienced you. And I grasped that you exist smart, that you exist attentive, that you represent somebody that values faithfulness in the method that individuals in my presence appreciate faithfulness. I grasped that I didn't desire to obliterate you. I grasped that I desired to grasp you." Demetrius maintained her appendage throughout the spot, and his contact stayed soft, deliberate, purposeful. "Return following morning," he mentioned. "I desire to grasp all regarding you. And I desire you to grasp all regarding me. Not like opponents, yet like a pair of individuals that have bumped into something that neither of us anticipated." Yet what neither Demetrius or Cassandra grasped at that instant was that they experienced been monitored. They experienced been monitored via workers that performed for a male-designated Dmitry Volkov, a Russian crime administrator that maintained his private quite precise causes for being keen in what takes place amongst Demetrius Solomon and the Chin enterprise. Dmitry Volkov maintained workers spanning the Washington zone, and he experienced positioned some of those workers at Celestial specifically because he maintained facts that Cassandra Monroe might be present, that she might be experiencing somebody, that something vital might be about to manifest. Dmitry Volkov measures 56 periods, and he represents the nearly all-threatening male in North America. He came to America in 1992 throughout the disarray of the Soviet Union's collapse, with absolutely nothing yet a standing for brutality and a community of associates from his moment in the Russian armed force and the nation's protection organization. He functioned as the nation's protection prior to it turned obvious that the Soviet Union was deteriorating, that the constructions that sustained him were disintegrating, that he required to locate an alternate location to establish his supremacy. Therefore he came to America with an uncomplicated technique. He might regulate command of as much zone-like achievable, he might create himself like somebody excessively mighty to be opposed, and he might establish a realm that might continue for the remainder of his living. Throughout a couple decades he established a realm that managed everything from individual transferring to arms selling to the movement of compound across primary American zones. He functioned via concern, via immediate hazard, via behaviors of brutality so extraordinary that individuals experienced terrified just to speak regarding them. His workers remained recognized for their brutality. His procedures remained recognized for their absence of regard for being. Dmitry Volkov established his supremacy on the structure of complete ruthlessness. Yet Dmitry Volkov maintained a difficulty, and that difficulty was compounded via a couple designations: Demetrius Solomon and Phoenix Chin. Every one of these workers' experience been gradually arriving in his zone, robbing his patrons, blocking his shipments, advancing into industries that he maintained as protected. Dmitry experienced misplaced sufficient money in the earlier period to declare bankruptcy a diminutive state. And Dmitry, for the initial moment in his being, experienced apprehension regarding his grasp on supremacy. He experienced apprehension that he experienced losing management of his business. He experienced apprehension that younger, smarter, extra calculated workers positioned themselves to substitute him. Yet Dmitry similarly functioned as smart. He didn't simply represent a brute. He functioned like a calculated thinker. He established his realm via the pair brutality and mindful arranging, and he grasped that the smartest transfer was to eliminate his opposition prior to they eliminated him. He grasped that assuming Demetrius Solomon and Phoenix Chin merged powers, assuming they blended their supplies and facts and execution power, subsequently his realm completed. He might experience outmaneuvered. He might experience expelled from his zones. He might turn pointless. And in Dmitry's globe, meaninglessness implied decease. Therefore, whenever Dmitry's workers communicated that a female that corresponded the explanation of Cassandra Monroe, the shade repository for the Chin enterprise, obtained showed at Celestial for a gathering with Demetrius Solomon, Dmitry grasped that something vital was about to manifest. He grasped that he possibly experienced observing the starting of a partnership that might endanger his presence. And Dmitry Volkov created a selecting. He might move opposite the pair of them at the similar moment, utilizing the truth that they functioned acquiring nearer to one another like impossibility to obliterate them the pair and combine their procedures underneath his authority. The strategy was graceful in its straightforwardness. Dmitry might coordinate with federal law implementation associates that he cultivated spanning cycles, associates that he paid off, associates that he maintained impact regarding. He might position Demetrius and Cassandra apprehended at the similar instant on accusations that amounted to incorrect yet that might get aided via created facts that his individuals might place. He might guarantee that they existed separated, positioned in distinct federal centers, prevented from corresponding with one another. Whilst they stayed in holding, whilst they stayed incapable to organize, Dmitry's workers might advance opposite the pair of businesses. They might goal the equipment, the delivery systems, the investment, the individuals. Throughout a question of cycles, the pair businesses might experience complete turmoil. Throughout a question of intervals, Dmitry might be advancing in to merge the zones, the procedures, the supremacy that they established. Yet something unexpected took place that blocked Dmitry's strategy. A couple intervals following the blind gathering at Celestial, a couple intervals following Demetrius and Cassandra experienced separated methods with a dedication to encounter once more, Demetrius obtained a notice. The notice showed through a protected avenue, showed from a beginning that Demetrius grasped might just be Cassandra. The notice incorporated thorough facts regarding Dmitry Volkov's operation. It incorporated designations of federal workers that experienced been surrendered via Dmitry, that experienced been purchased off, that might cooperate in illegal doings assuming Dmitry requested this. It incorporated facts regarding protected residences wherever Dmitry's investment remained hoarded, regarding delivery systems wherever his compound traveled, regarding the organization of his business in methods that might permit somebody to dismantle this. Demetrius grasped promptly what this signified. It signified that Cassandra utilized her admittance to the Chin Enterprises fax to obtain facts regarding Dmitry Volkov. It signified that she grasped, in those periods following the blind gathering, that there existed a hazard that was extra than the dispute amongst Demetrius and Phoenix, that there existed a pressure that functioned opposite the pair of them. It signified that she selected to notify him, that she selected to place herself opposite her private business in order to notify him to danger. And Demetrius created a selecting. He might request Phoenix Chin straightforwardly, creating that requesting function like among the nearly all dangerous deciding that Demetrius ever created. Phoenix Chin functioned like his opposition, his competing, his foe. Communicating to her might be comprehended like weakness. Exposing that he experienced approached via her shade repository, that he invested a night with her, that he gotten facts from her regarding Dmitry Volkov might be observed like proof that he experienced weakness, that he experienced susceptibility to penetration, that his business functioned like compromised. Phoenix might utilize that facts opposite him. She might utilize this to advance opposite him. She might utilize this to create her private location more powerful at his cost. Yet Demetrius grasped something that the vast majority of crime workers never grasp. That at moments the greatest skill amounts to the readiness to create yourself susceptible for a bigger objective, that at moments, the smartest transfer amounts to bond with your opposition opposite a distributed menace. Demetrius grasped that Phoenix Chin existed smart, that she might acknowledge the importance of what he was about to provide, that she might grasp the reasoning of his suggestion. He created the requesting via a protected communication, via a position wherever he grasped the communication might not experience supervised via enforcement. He requested a figure that he experienced not previously requested prior, a figure that he acquired via fax procedures, a figure that he grasped might connect Phoenix Chin right away. Phoenix obtained on the alternate moment. Indeed, she mentioned, and her tone stayed peaceful, evaluated, prepared to grasp the importance of the requesting. This amounts to Demetrius Solomon, he mentioned. I'm requesting because you transmitted somebody to experience me. I'm requesting because your operative, Cassandra Monroe, has merely notified me of a hazard that I maintain is additionally a hazard to you. I'm requesting because I maintain we require to correspond regarding what arrives following. There existed a delay on the additional finish of the requesting. Demetrius might think Phoenix executing this fax, grasping what it meant, grasping that something experienced changed in the moment that she developed whenever she handed Cassandra to infiltrate him. Communicate me regarding this hazard, Phoenix mentioned. Demetrius experienced her regarding Dmitry Volkov. He experienced her regarding the workers that Cassandra's fax experienced exposed. He experienced her regarding the federal workers that functioned surrendered. He experienced her regarding the advancement that prepared opposite the pair of their businesses. Dmitry Volkov amounts a difficulty for the pair of us, Phoenix mentioned, and her tone incorporated no feeling, no indication of if she experienced shock or sensation or figuring, and my operative on the terrain has merely validated that you don't amount a hazard to my business. You amount a probable companion. Therefore indeed I might function with you. And jointly, we might eliminate Dmitry Volkov from the situation. What took place spanning the following a couple intervals alongside a bit functioned like a organized operation that displayed the genuine supremacy of a couple crime businesses executing jointly. Demetrius and Phoenix distributed facts. They arranged workers. They advanced opposite Dimitri's operation via multiple approaches at the similar moment. Federal workers, workers that didn't amount surrendered via Dmitry, workers that experienced created and matching examination into Dimitri's doings, got delivered with thorough facts regarding Dimitri's protected residences, his procedures, his investment cleaning equipment. The FBI, immediately furnished with facts that experienced used them periods to obtain, transferred with accuracy and drive. Examinations executed at a couple in the dawn at multiple distinct locations. Investment was obtained, a quantity of millions of monetary units in banknotes, in electronic investment, in monetary devices. Critical associates of Dimitri's business experienced arrest. His substitute, his monetary officer, his brain of procedures, workers that experienced function with him spanning a couple decades. Facts was found. Recordings of discussions created of activities, exchanges that outlined individual transferring procedures, arms selling procedures, employed eliminations. At the similar moment, Demetrius and Phoenix advanced opposite Dimitri's delivery systems. Shipments experienced stopping prior to they achieved their locations. Workers experienced terminated, withdrawn from their spots, kept from persisting their function. Investment origins experienced cutaway. Movement systems experienced interrupted. The carefully created equipment that Demetri established spanning a couple decades started to deteriorate. Throughout a couple intervals, Dmitry Volkov's business experienced finished turmoil. Critical participants experienced either arrested or terminated. His delivery systems functioned interrupted. His investment experienced obtained. His protected residences experienced found and cleared. His carefully created realm started to deteriorate in on itself, transforming uncertain, transforming susceptible, transforming something that might not maintain itself. And Dmitri, grasping that he experienced misplaced, grasping that his effort to advance opposite Demetrius and Phoenix produced the ruin of his private business, created a selecting that displayed something similar to standing. He purchased his staying workers to pause. He surrendered to federal enforcement. He recognized that his moment functioned complete. He grasped that the globe experienced adjusted, that the younger set of workers experience substituted him, that supremacy experienced transferred. And Dmitry Volkov, that established his realm on brutality and concern, finished this with resignation. Dmitry obtained captured and taxed with a couple federal activities, extending from individual transferring to arms selling to investment cleaning to organizing to execute homicide. He experienced conviction on all matters. He experienced been given permanent jailing. He might invest the remainder of his being in federal jailing, observing his business get dismantled from his mobile, observing supremacy deliver to additional appendages, grasping totally and fully that the activity experienced adjusted and that he experienced failed. Yet whilst all of this stayed occurring, whilst the federal authority functioned managing Dimitri's arrest and his business functioned getting deliberately disassembled, something different was occurring, something far extra significant than the ruin of a crime business. Demetrius and Cassandra functioned becoming in love. They invested moment jointly. They delivered accounts regarding their existences, regarding how they come to be in the crime globe, regarding what they desired past the gathering of supremacy and money. Demetrius experienced her regarding his maternal guardian, regarding Evangeline's desire that he might one interval establish a legitimate presence, regarding the method that his maternal guardian refused to abandon on him despite all proof showing that abandoning might function the reasonable response. Cassandra experienced him regarding her guardians, regarding the method they experienced murdered, regarding the method that she devoted herself to retaliation, regarding the method that operating for Phoenix provided her objective yet similarly confined her in an existence that she hadn't selected. And spanning intervals, spanning many months, what commenced like a penetration obligation, what commenced like an effort to manage and obliterate, shifted into something genuinely actual. The artificial identity that Cassandra established started to experience less artificial. The communications that they initiated like a deception started to experience like genuine attachment. The interest that the pair initially rejected started to emerge, started to transform into something that they might recognize. Cassandra finished operating for the Chin enterprise. She created this selecting grasping that it functioned like a single of the nearly all threatening decisions she might create, grasping that Phoenix Chin didn't represent a female that took disloyalty, grasping that departing from her business might finish in her decease. Yet she similarly grasped that what she obtained with Demetrius functioned as meriting the hazard, that genuine attachment functioned extra important than the protection that went with staying within Phoenix's business. She approached Phoenix right away. She experienced her regarding Demetrius. She experienced her regarding the selecting she created. She experienced her that she functioned exiting the business. Phoenix's reply wasn't what Cassandra anticipated. Phoenix didn't endanger her. Phoenix didn't purchase her decease. As an alternative, Phoenix experienced her something that Cassandra experienced not anticipated to experience. I transmitted you to blend into him. You selected to notify him as an alternative. That communicates me additional regarding your personality than any procedure examination might. You selected faithfulness to an individual above faithfulness to an business. That amounts to admirable. That amounts to exceptional. And that represents something that I regard. Therefore I discharge you from your assistance. Move establish your existence with him. And grasp that you maintain my benediction, not my antagonism. Phoenix's selecting functioned calculated, yet additionally, Cassandra grasped, genuinely implied. Phoenix grasped that what occurred functioned not like a collapse yet like a shift. Cassandra didn't get transformed into a responsibility. She got shifted into an advantage to a fresh partnership. The Chin Enterprise and Demetrius Solomon's Eastern location business might profit from the attachment amongst them, might profit from the grasp that experience been created, might profit from the connection that got surfaced from dishonesty. Demetrius, meanwhile, created his private selecting. He selected that he might move back from dynamic procedures. He grasped that his maternal guardian functioned accurate, that he experienced searching for something past supremacy and money, that what he obtained with Cassandra functioned meriting giving up the business he established. He shifted his business to his sibling Marcus, providing him complete authority, requesting him to sustain the procedure yet to accomplish therefore in a method that functioned extra calculated and reduced brutal. He positioned Rebecca Martinez to manage everyday procedures. He positioned Diane Wu to maintain managing the monetary equipment. He positioned Thomas Graves to sustain the fax procedures. And he exited. A couple intervals following the blind gathering at Celestial, Demetrius and Cassandra wed. Not in a ceremonial option that might function excessively threatening, excessively community, excessively probable to attract the focus of federal enforcement and the knowledge businesses that might be keen in such a partnership. As an alternative, they contained a modest option in a protected location with merely their nearly all adjacent associates. They exchanged guarantees that recognized the actuality of how they encountered, that recognized the hazard that produced them jointly, that recognized the shift that affection created in the pair of them. Demetrius's sibling Marcus functioned present. His sister Keisha functioned present. His maternal guardian Evangeline functioned present. And she wept with pleasure at observing her boy wed, at observing him pleased, at observing him establish the category of existence that she experienced investing in requesting for. Phoenix Chin participated in the option, carrying with her a contribution and a benediction. She grasped that what took place functioned significant, that the attachment amongst Demetrius and Cassandra functioned a fresh section in the tale of crime in America, a section in which partnerships got established not on concern yet on distributed regard and genuine assurance. Phoenix additionally created an suggestion to the pair of them. She suggested that Demetrius and Cassandra turn into the administrators of a merged Eastern location and Western location business, functioning jointly to manage a crime business that functioned established on facts, on calculated contemplation, on the category of collaboration that originates from distributed regard and genuine individual attachment. She suggested that Cassandra maintain her functioning like a repository specialist, sustaining facts on the business's opponents and associates. She suggested that Demetrius maintain his functioning like a calculated thinker, managing the procedures and the connections that the business needed. Demetrius and Cassandra obtained this suggestion. They created themselves like the administrators of a business that stretched North America, that executed with advancement and accuracy, that displayed that crime company didn't need to exist established on concern and brutality, yet might exist established on facts, on faithfulness, on genuine individual attachment. Jointly, they produced something that functioned feared and honored spanning the underworld, something that functioned grasped to exist established on ability and calculated contemplation instead of on brutality and hazard. Evangeline Solomon, meanwhile, functioned happy beyond evaluation. Her boy functioned wed. He maintained a companion. He functioned establishing an existence that incorporated somebody that cherished him, somebody that grasped him, somebody that devoted to establishing an existence with him. Evangeline didn't grasp all the specifics of what her boy executed, didn't desire to grasp all the specifics, yet she grasped that her asking experienced obtained. Her boy obtained affection. Her boy obtained somebody that grasped him totally, that took him, that devoted to establishing an existence with him. And Evangeline grasped that in obtaining Cassandra, in establishing a connection with somebody that might grasp the shadow of his globe and select to position herself at his portion, her boy obtained salvation. A couple periods following the blind gathering, following Dmitry Volkov obtained verdict and obtained given permanent jailing, following the federal examination into his business created the examination of a couple associates, following the crime underworld experienced shifted itself underneath fresh command, Cassandra turned into expecting. She and Demetrius were about to contain a young one, a young one that might get established into a globe of supremacy and hazard, yet that might additionally get established into affection, into attachment, into the grasp that group functioned extra significant than business. Whenever Evangeline discovered that she experienced about to develop into an ancestor, she wept with pleasure, because she grasped that her boy experienced obtained salvation, that he obtained pulled back from the portion of the hollow, that he experienced selected affection and group above supremacy and supremacy, that her asking experienced obtained in methods that she experienced not even ventured to expect. Yet there's something significant that wants to be tackled in this account, something that stretches past the love account, something that moves to the foundation of what it amounts to be individual, what it amounts to create selections, what it amounts to respect attachment above protection. Because on the exterior amount, this functions like a love account. It's an account regarding a pair of individuals from inverse portions of a dispute that obtained one another and selected to establish a presence jointly. Yet on a different amount, this functions like an account regarding the methods that supremacy executes, regarding the methods that businesses exist created, regarding the categories of partnerships that surface whenever shared opponents select that their shared opponent functions excessively of a hazard than they amount to one another. Dmitry Volkov functioned like a hazard to the pair Demetrius Solomon and Phoenix Chen. Therefore they positioned aside their private competitive stresses and transferred opposite him jointly. And throughout the procedure of creating that, they produced something fresh, something that experience not existed prior. They produced a partnership that functioned established not on distributed perspectives, because there existed zero distributed perspectives amongst an Eastern location crime administrator and a Western location crime administrator, yet on distributed interests and distributed grasp of what the globe needed of them. They produced a framework wherever facts and calculating functioned appreciated above brutality and hazard. They produced a business that functioned feared not because this functioned brutal, yet because this functioned proficient, because this functioned calculated, because this grasped the activity superior to anybody else. And Cassandra, throughout the procedure of infiltrating Demetrius, throughout the procedure of discovering regarding him, throughout the procedure of grasping his globe from within, functioned becoming in affection with him. Not because he functioned a suitable individual, he wasn't. Not because he functioned ethical or honorable, he wasn't neither. Yet because he functioned smart, because he functioned fit, because he functioned the category of individual that might establish something important, even assuming that something important functioned a crime business. Because in his brutality she observed not coldness yet accuracy. In his calculated considering she observed not dishonesty yet truthfulness. In his readiness to utilize whatever methods vital to obtain his purposes, she observed not immorality yet realism, a obviously observed grasp of how the globe genuinely functions. Therefore I desire to request you a matter, and I desire you to genuinely contemplate this. Assuming you existed, Cassandra, assuming you experienced gotten delivered on an obligation to blend into and obliterate somebody, assuming you experienced performed effectively in getting nearer to that individual, assuming you obtained found matters regarding them that functioned admirable, might you have transferred via with your obligation? Might you have handed down the individual you experienced developing regard for? Or might you have, like Cassandra executed, shifted opposite your private business to notify the individual you functioned expected to obliterate? And assuming you created that selecting, assuming you selected affection above faithfulness to your business, assuming you selected collaboration above the finishing of your obligation, what might you anticipate to take place following? What might you anticipate the replies to exist? Might you anticipate to get eliminated? Might you anticipate to experience pursued? Or might you, like Cassandra, find that the individual you handed down your business for might exist prepared to eliminate to maintain you? Move into the reactions and communicate me your solution. Communicate me wherever you're at. Do you exist in the Washington zone, wherever this account originates? Do you exist in a location in the crime underworld? Do you exist in a location totally distinct? Communicate me your locale, communicate me your zone. Communicate me what carries you toward these accounts of individuals that create difficult selections, that traverse the experience of affection and supremacy and hazard. Communicate me if you think Cassandra created the fitting selecting. Communicate me if you think her affection for Demetrius qualified her betrayal of Phoenix. Communicate me if you think that genuine affection needs a readiness to give up everything. And assuming this account motivated you, assuming you experienced the electricity of that initial experience amongst Demetrius and Cassandra at Celestial, assuming you experienced the moment whenever they obtained one another spanning the spot, Assuming you grasped the gravity of the selecting that Cassandra created whenever she selected to notify Demetrius regarding Dmitry Volkov's strategy. Assuming you experienced the drive of a pair of individuals from opposing portions of a dispute, obtaining one another and selecting affection above war. Kindly press that preference switch. We're targeting a couple thousand choice reactions on this output, because this account obtained acceptance. This amounts to our account regarding smart individuals creating selections that go beyond their situations, regarding the likelihood of affection surfacing from dishonesty, regarding the method that individuals might astonish one another with their ability for modification and shift, regarding the method that at moments the nearly almighty individual in a chamber doesn't represent the individual with the nearly all brutality at their control, yet the individual that grasps that attachment functions extra mighty than supremacy. Register to this zone right now because there exist a couple additional accounts regarding Demetrius and Cassandra, regarding how they create their merged business, regarding how they traverse the federal examinations that proceed also following Dimitri's arrest, regarding what transpires whenever individuals from the crime globe make efforts to establish something actual jointly, regarding how they bring up their young people, regarding what it amounts to select a existence of attachment above a existence of isolation. We're going to examine the merged business, wherever we pursue how Demetrius and Cassandra unite supremacy spanning the region, how they create themselves like administrators that functioned honored not merely for their power to produce injury, yet for their facts and their calculated perspective. We're going to examine the federal focus, wherever we find that federal enforcement remains examining the pair the eastern location and western location businesses, that Demetrius and Cassandra require to traverse the continuing hazard of examination also like they make efforts to establish their existence jointly. And we're going to experience the account of the young one, wherever we pursue what transpires whenever Demetrius and Cassandra's young one gets established, whenever they require to manage with the matter of what category of globe they desire their young one to develop in, if they desire to bring up their young one in a globe specified via crime and mystery, or if they desire to attempt something distinct, something that possibly includes moving back from the business they established. I'll observe you in the following output. Don't become sluggish because the account of Demetrius and Cassandra amounts to merely starting, and the difficulties that go from their attachment remain about to create all infinitely extra multifaceted and infinitely extra threatening. The blind gathering has placed in movement activities that shall shift the whole crime environment of North America. And you're not going to desire to pass what takes place following. Because bear in mind, the nearly almighty connections typically exist those that commence like deceptions, that exist created in the fireplaces of shared hazard, that shift into something actual spanning the straightforward behavior of selecting to exist truthful with one another. Demetrius and Cassandra selected truthfulness whenever dishonesty might function so a lot more uncomplicated. They selected to expose themselves whenever concealing might function more protected. They selected to have confidence whenever assurance might function the nearly all-threatening selecting each might create. And that selecting, that individual selecting to be truthful with one another, modified everything. It modified their existences. It modified their businesses. It modified the whole environment of crime in America. And it confirmed once again that affection amounts to extra mighty than supremacy, that,